They moved the. So I watched the first 6 episodes and I really enjoyed them. I'm a huge fan. Leslie knows this. A huge fan of Transplant.
Thank you.
And I just love it. And well, what can the fans who haven't seen them yet expect from season 3? What are you allowed to tell us?
Just that, I mean, the main thing I think, like coming into season 3, is that because we'd ended season 2 on these pretty big cliffhangers, we wrote off a major character and introduced a new character who, so we wrote off John Hannah's character and introduced Rekha Sharma's character, Dr. Devi, who brings a different energy to the hospital that we are really kind of interested in and excited by. So they have that to deal with. We didn't, we ended season 2 on this kind of horrific, helicopter accident for Jim Watson, Dr. Theo Hunter's character, and we didn't pretend that didn't happen and we didn't kill him, so I think they kind of
Thank
lean
you.
into that. Yeah. We lean into that story and try to tell it in interesting ways. And I think, one that audiences tend to be interested in is the kind of relationship between Bash and Megs, because we had been sort of mining this, like, will they, won't they, between these two for 2 seasons, and rather than milking it, we kind of just got them together. And so kind of rolled the dice with that in season 3, and kind of asking the question, what would it look like if these two were actually a couple, and could it sustain? And so those are the sort of definitely the 3 big things kind of leading us into the 3rd season.
Yeah, I think the fans of Hamed and Mags will be very happy about that. At least for a little while, because on these kind of shows, nobody's happy for a long time, for forever anyway.
Yeah.
So that actually reminds me, what can you tell us why John Hannah was written out? Was it something you talk about?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, honestly, like, knowing John Hannah, he's a lovely guy. I mean, and working with John, so he's great. So it was very it was reluctant on that level, because he's wonderful to have around, and he's such a good actor who brings such good, like, a grounding presence to the show. Like, he makes everything legitimate. You could put him anywhere, and so, but basically, we're trying to tell this story about he because of the way that his relationship with the Bashir character evolved over the 2 seasons, the way they kind of trying to save each other, and the way that Dr. Bishop evolved as this sort of backstop for Bash, this sort of paternal guy who always had his back, that in a way Bash is too narratively safe. It's like, sort of, you mentioned on these shows, the couples get together and then they have to experience turmoil. Well, it's sort of the same thing there. I mean, if he always, we're trying to explore the challenges, that he has, and if this guy always has his back, it's he's a little bit too safe, and we had written to what we thought were kind of organic conflicts with them over the 2 seasons, and we just didn't want to repeat ourselves. And so it was a difficult decision, because we love him so much, but it makes the character of Bash more exciting for us as writers, because he's less safe.
Right. And after watching the first 6 episodes, I really liked what happens in the 5th and 6th episodes. And I was like, oh, yes, finally. So that's good. I can't say why, but So, and season 4 just started in Canada, right?
Yeah. We're about a year ahead
Yeah.
of you guys.
So is the show over now for you? It's all filmed and done?
So I'm talking to you from our production studio, and we're still filming for another month. And so we're right now, even though we started airing in Canada, we're still shooting another month. So we're in the process of wrapping it up.
Okay. And has it so far turned out pretty much the way you wanted it all to?
Yeah, it has. Yeah. When we started, we had I had this idea from the beginning that it would sort of, if it made it that long, it would be the story of him redoing his residency, the Bashir character, over 4 years, and with sort of the highs and lows, and an overall arc in mind for that, and sort of a view of sending him into the world at the end of that, and to see where he got, and how he established himself, how he put down roots, and what parts of his past we were specifically going to explore in that 4 sort of season window. And it's gone really well. It's been it's been a real pleasurable show to make.
Right. I don't understand why it's not more successful, why they can't go on and on. I mean, look at Grey's Anatomy and ER and shows like that. The Good Doctor. I mean,
Yeah, I mean, it's we're ending it deliberately, you
oh, are
know.
you?
Yeah. I'm not speaking for any of our network or our studio, but
Right.
we're making the decision creatively that we made about a year and a half ago
Oh,
that what I say, and I love those shows that you mentioned,
mhm.
but Transplant isn't like Grey's Anatomy where you can just sort of keep throwing the kitchen sink at Meredith. It's a different animal. It's a different beast. It's a different thing, you know? And I just wanted, because we're trying to sort of tell these kind of emotional stories about his specific
Right.
experience of taking down roots. We didn't want to repeat ourselves.
Right. Okay. No, that makes sense. A lot of great shows have done that, have said, okay, that's all we're doing. And I think MASH did that. So
Yeah,
you're in
although
good company.
probably, but after like 8 seasons or something with
Yeah,
MASH.
it was on for a while. But yeah, that show could have kept going. So is it difficult keeping spoilers from fans in the US after it's already aired in Canada, or is that not a problem?
I think it would be, I think it would be much harder the other way, you know,
Mhm.
because there's such a much bigger market in the U.S. You know, like we're like 30 million to 300 and something million people. So I think if it was, I think it works out okay. You know,
Okay.
if American fans wanted to find out what what the spoilers were, they easily could, but yeah, we just try not. I try not to worry about it.
Okay. And what medical show was your favorite growing up?
ER, definitely.
Mhm.
Shout out NBC. Definitely ER. I watched it when it was on in the 90s, and I just found that just because the writing on that show is so unsentimental and efficient, and the way it moves and its economy of pace and its kind of ruthlessness dramatically always just blew me away. And even now, you know, when you come across one of those episodes, I still find them to be mind-blowingly great.
Yeah. Uh, yeah, I'm a little older than you. So I actually, when I was young, I watched Medical Center with uh Chad, I can't remember the last name, but anyway, I love that show. And that was, I think, groundbreaking for the time, because before that you had Dr. Kildare and Marcus Welby, which were kind of boring. I mean, they were all right, but this was like young doctor, and it reminded me a little bit of your show because it had a young doctor who comes in and shakes things up a little bit, you know, and then of course later we had St. Elsewhere, which was fantastic, and Chicago Hope. So I mean, I don't think ER could have happened without those two shows, but it's great. I love doctor show. As you can tell, I like medical shows anyway, but
Yeah. And MASH, you know, that you mentioned,
yeah.
MASH, you know, like as far as like something that is just like these really grounded emotional slices of life that doesn't
Mhm.
get too sentimental, but MASH is a big one too, even though I kind of before my time, but I used to watch those on syndication and I just love those
Oh
shows.
yeah,
Yeah.
you can still see those somewhere. And when my mother-in-law, who was older, lived with us, we watched it constantly, MASH and Law and Order.
Yeah.
So, but anyway, so do you have, this is my last question. Do you have something that you're looking forward to after this show is over? Do you have some ideas in mind or things that you're going to be working on?
Yeah, I do. Nothing that I can really talk about publicly, but yeah, I have a couple of things that are at the beginning and that I'm really excited about, but it'll be a transitional period for me because I started working on Transplant in 2017, and it's been a pretty all-consuming job through the pandemic. You know, our first season was shot before the pandemic, and then it took us 2 years more or less to figure out how to do the show during the pandemic. And now that that's, you know, in the rearview mirror, I suppose I'll take some time.
Right, right.
Take a
Well,
little bit
that's
of time.
good. Well, that's good. Yeah, that's 6 years. That's a long time for a show that, yeah. Here we're
Yeah.
only on the third season, and it seems like the second season was a long time ago too. And it's like
Yeah. Yeah, it was. Yeah, I think it aired 18 months ago or something of that nature. Yeah.
something. Yeah,
Yeah.
I mean, I don't think if the strikes hadn't happened, I'm not sure it would have aired until next spring. I don't know, but I know we're all very grateful to have it to watch, one of the few new scripted programs on the air. And I can't wait for season 4. And thank you very much for talking to me today.
Thank you. It was really nice. I really appreciate it. Thank you.
And thanks for rescheduling after last week when I had trouble.
Yeah, no problem. Okay.
Bye-bye.